Welcome, friends, to the Gamer Down. This is your host, Dark Hostess. And welcome to yet another brand new series I'm starting. It is called MMORPG SPOTLIGHT. And what it will focus on is several different MMOs. There's so many MMOs out there. And I think that people are probably looking for new MMOs these days. You know, they're all waiting for Guild Wars 2 and Star Wars The Old Republic. Just like me. I'll be honest. I'm waiting with high anticipation for Guild Wars 2 and Star Wars The Old Republic. But, they're still a ways away. And we got a lot of time to kill. So, what better way to do it than, checking out several different MMOs. I'm going back to WoW already, and I have that series I'm going to be starting now. And I'm doing Rift stuff all the time. I'm moving Rift down to once a week. Because really there's just not a whole lot to show in Rift anymore. Everything's been shown. Everything that can be shown has been shown. If not by me, then by somebody else. So in this series, we're going to spend some time checking out several different MMOs. Going to have some fun. And I want to begin with Lord of the Rings Online. This game will always be close to my heart. I played it for about a year, and you see that I made it up to about 60th level. And I play a minstrel on here, which is usually equivalent to a bard in other games. And just for the record, in Lord of the Rings Online, minstrels are called minis, just so you know. If you see a mini looking for a mini, they're looking for a minstrel. And first I had to check on my house, though, and make sure no burglars had stolen my stuff, And had to go check my mailbox, too, but turned out being nothing more than a dirty letter from my landlord. Sorry, sons of guns. Yeah. Back rent. Always with the back rent, I would pay it up for a year if they would let me, but well, I'd probably save more money by just letting it expire, because you never lose your house in Lord of the Rings Online. That's one cool thing about this game. And in this series, I'm going to tell you about the things in Lord of the Rings that maybe you didn't know about, And I also had to go back to my house to grab my sack of pipe weed. Yeah, that good old pipe weed. What other game can you smoke in? I can't even really think of any game off the top of my head where it lets you smoke. And a lot of people maybe think like, oh, Lord of the Rings, oh, childish. This game is not childish at all. It's very adult. This game is based very hard on the books. They do not take the lore lightly in this game. They are meticulous. Turbine went through the lore with a fine-tooth comb, and if anything is against the lore, it just doesn't make it into the game. So, after a couple of bowls of pipe weed, it was time to bust out the loot and get my jams on. Yeah, that is one awesome thing about Lord of the Rings Online. It has a built-in music system. You can play actual notes, and if you know how to play music, you can play your own songs, or you can be lazy, like I am, and you can get pre-recorded songs and put them in the right directory, and you can play any song in the world. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of songs available for Lord of the Rings Online, and there's 4 different instruments as well. There's the lute, cowbell, harp, and the drum. So, yeah, it's pretty kick-ass. And you can also join a group, and you can synchronize your songs as well. I always thought that was one of the coolest things Turbine did, was adding the music system and all the little social aspects to the game. You can drink and smoke and play music. They didn't miss none of that, And Lord of the Rings is really more about the journey than it is the end, really. And the game really isn't even complete yet. They aren't even to Mordor with the expansions. So there's a long ways to go. There's a lot of level cap to go as well. And speaking of journey, just listen how cool that sounds, Just a small town girl living in the lonely world. No, I should try to sing this song. Steve Perry, I Am Not. That is for sure. I love this song, though. It's going to be in my head the rest of the week. I know that much. Journey was one of the very first concerts I ever went to when I was like 10 years old or something like that. I don't know, it was a long time ago. I know that much. But there is much, much more to Lord of the Rings Online than just music and smoking and drinking and all those good things. There are dungeons and there are raids at end level. And the dungeons are some of the most finely crafted dungeons you've ever probably seen. You know, voice acted, you know, when you first enter the dungeon, and it explains the dungeon to you, and I don't know, you have to really experience it. And I will be showing a dungeon eventually. But first I wanted to show the Lord of the Rings Online store. And you can buy things to upgrade your character, as well as cosmetic items and mounts, and you name it. And as you see in the right hand panel here that I'm moving, this is your trait system. And what the trait system is you build your traits by doing different deeds, by like slaying monsters or using a spell a certain number of times, or you know, whatever, something like that. Or you can buy a few out of the store itself using your turbine points. And you earn turbine points in different ways. You earn them by completing quests, and you earn them by doing deeds as well. And as you see, I've opened my deed log, and here's a list of like some of my deeds that I've done and some that I can do, and etc. There's a ton of them. You know, this is basically the achievements. So for doing achievements, you actually do build your character, and you gain different traits, and you can mix and match your traits in your trait panel here, as you see. When I stopped playing Lord of the Rings, it was around when Mirkwood came out. I basically bought the Mirkwood expansion, and I logged in and I logged out, and I never came back. I went back to WoW, and I started multi-boxing WoW. And, you know, like I said in the very beginning of this video, it's hard to play multiple MMOs at one time, and that's when I was just playing and I wasn't broadcasting. But as you see in the store here, you can get a multitude of items, and Turbine has the best online, you know, free-to-play model that's out there right now. They did it with DDO, Dungeons and Dragons Online, and now their subs are like up to 3 million or something like that. And that's one thing I've noticed right away when I came back to Lord of the Rings. There's people everywhere. People jumped on the free-to-play model like gangbusters, you know. I mean, it is very popular now, and people are loving it. And you can just buy what you want, you know. If you just want that mount really bad, you can buy that mount, or you know, if there's some buffs you want, you know. And you can, you know, like I said, you can earn points at, you know, doing quests and things like that as well. And you can be a subscriber and become a VIP member, and you earn a certain amount of points every month. It's not very many, you know, about like 500 or something like that. But, you know, it's still pretty cool, and it's not, you know, really that expensive. And it seems since I've been gone, Lord of the Rings Online has introduced phasing, as you see at the very bottom of my screen there, kind of describing it. So if you are, you know, coming back to Lord of the Rings Online, they obviously have phasing now, and so it's just, it seems to be just like WoW. You know, you can be in the exact same place as another person, but you're in kind of a different version of it, as you know. It's just like WoW, basically. And you can group with that person, and you can be in the same phase of that instance. And I guess they didn't want to call it phasing, just so it wouldn't ruffle any feathers over at Blizzard, maybe. But it's pretty cool, though. And here we are back in Mirkwood, and this is basically where I left off when I quit playing. And I thought, you know, maybe I'd show you a couple of the quests here. The questing in Lord of the Rings Online, it varies. Whoa, it's all over the place, really. But, I mean, it's so enjoyable. You know, they have really, like, basically, like, 3 or 4 different quest types, you know. There are solo dungeons, and there's quite a few solo dungeons. And then there's just, you know, your basic kill quests. And Lord of the Rings Online, they were very innovative. As you see with this dynamic quest here, you show up at the gate here and you meet with these guards, and what you must do is defend this gate without getting too far away from the gate. I found it out the hard way. And let me just say, I have not played for a long time, and playing a minstrel is one of the harder classes to play. It takes a little skill to play a minstrel. I'm not just saying that because I'm playing it. It does take quite a bit of skill. There's not very many minstrels in this game, actually. It's kind of the underrated class, and they're the main healing class as well. And as you can see, I died rather miserably. And this is how death works in this game. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to show you. You see that little debuff I have right below my portrait, and that gives my character dread, and it happens after you die, and you are penalized for about 5 minutes. And this is one of the harsher death penalties, I should say. You can still fight even though you have dread and you have the debuff, but 5 minutes of your life you have to wait out to make it go away. And if you're doing a dungeon and some things like that, some of the harder fights, then every point counts and you don't want to have any dread. And mobs in this game, some of the bosses, actually all of the bosses, they have a certain degree of dread, and you have to have hope, which is a stat on your equipment, and it compensates for the dread. So when you're raiding and things like that, you have to have very high hope gear, and it matters, it matters in that aspect. But you can get away with having lower hope with using buffs and food and things like that. And instead of actually using health, they use a system called morale. So my green bar is actually my morale bar, but it works essentially just like a health bar. But the more dread that is piled upon you, the lower your health, your maximum health will be. So it does matter. It does matter quite a bit later on, at the higher levels and in the dungeons and things like that. Yeah, my character is, past that. Really, what's ahead of me is 5 more levels until they release the next expansion, really. And a lot of people, they will play Lord of the Rings, and then they'll leave, and then they'll come back and leave and come back. And, it's okay. It's free to play now. So you're not really losing any money. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that at all. Another thing about Lord of the Rings Online is there's no add-ons at all. So there is no gear score. And that's one reason the free model works so good with this game right here, because people aren't constantly comparing your gear. It mainly only matters to the person who possesses the gear, actually. Like you see my outfit here. This isn't even my gear, this is just my cosmetic outfit. So, a lot of people will wear their cosmetic outfit instead of even their fancy schmancy gear. And there is some really nice gear in this game, don't get me wrong. They have an entire legendary item system, which is very sophisticated. And it allows you to customize your weapon and your spell book if you're, such as say, a minstrel, or if you're a captain, you have a different trinket you can use. But you can customize these legendary items to fit your play style. So it's really awesome. People talk about Rift and its customizability. I would say Lord of the Rings beats it way by a long shot with traits and also with customizable gear. You're giving so many more opportunities and everything, really. You're given so many more ways you can go with your character. You can build on one stat, or you can have a catch-all character who has very even stats across the board, and you can switch gear for different occasions. Like I have a set of gear for healing, and I also have a set of gear for soloing, which I'm using right now. And as a minstrel, you can you can solo very well, That was the reason I picked a minstrel, actually, because they were one of the only classes that could solo elites, and they're pretty awesome. You know, a lot of people don't like to play them because they are a little bit tough. They are a little tough to play. And you see how many buttons I have on my bars there. You know, you have to build up your ballads when you're a minstrel. You have to play your tier 1 ballads, then that unlocks your tier 2 ballads, which unlock your tier 3 ballads. You know, and you also have these instant casts as well. And some of those are on kind of a high cooldown. Some of people's biggest complaints about Lord of the Rings is they felt like the combat was a little slow and not as reactive, and you know, I can kind of agree with that. You know, it is a lot different than WoW. You know, Lord of the Rings Online is a lot different than WoW. It shares a lot of the same ideals, but it's a far cry. Just even like the community, it has one of the better communities out there. Turbine doesn't take any crap. You know, they will ban you if you are offensive in any way, really. They have no qualms about banning people, especially when it's free to play. You know, what are they losing? Nothing. This is one of the few games where the community is, you know, really helpful. And if you've noticed, sometimes the GLFF channel I have in my bar on my chat box there, what that is the global looking for fellowship, and really it's like a global chat channel, and everybody, you know, is fairly respectful. You know, I mean, if anybody's not respectful, then you can call the GM and have them in there. And they're actually, I think the GM's even listen into that channel because it's got so many members into it. And you know, people are very helpful in this game. It's a way different feeling than WoW. And like I said, you know, a lot of it is about the journey to the end and really enjoying the story. I mean, it's okay to do a level a week or a level every couple of weeks. You know, it doesn't really matter. You know, I mean, you can level quite fast in this game if you really want to. You can grind it out. But, you know, it's so much better to enjoy Lord of the Rings as it comes, you know. I mean, just do the quests and read all the text and listen to all the voiceovers and, you know, really milk it for all it's worth. That's how you get the most out of Lord of the Rings Online. And I hope you were able to hear me over all that screaming and yelling. Being a minstrel, all my attacks are based on like songs and music and screaming and yelling. You know, that's one thing that really appealed to me about this character is killing people with my music. I was like playing so damn bad that it's actually killing people. And you know, the minstrel is a very fun class to play. But there are several classes, and they're very diverse in Lord of the Rings Online. They are very, very diverse. There's 2 pet classes, the Lore Master, and also the Captain. That's another one. You have to forgive me if I'm kind of stammering a little bit. I'm remembering as I'm going along, you know, because I have been away from this game for quite a while, but it was a great weekend just playing, you know, for a while, getting back to Lord of the Rings, you know, and really, you know, seeing what's happened since I've been gone. You know, it's really cool. You know, it makes me want to play more and more. After playing so much Rift and, you know, so much WoW, and even going back to WoW now, and it's such a nice change of pace. If you're looking for an MMO that is a way different change of pace than WoW or the Rift type games, then I can't recommend Lord of the Rings Online, you know, more than anything. I mean, it keeps with the tradition, so you're not going to be completely lost once you pick it up. You know, it's a hotkey, you know, game. You know, just like WoW and just like Rift, it plays a little different, and the classes are definitely a lot different. And there's no factions either. You know, you don't have any enemy factions. You can PvP in this game, but how you PvP in this game is you play as either a monster or you can play your character. So you have those 2 choices. You can also duel, you know, but there's really not much point. It's not as competitive as WoW by any means whatsoever. People like to help each other more than they do compete. And Lord of the Rings Online really did have dynamic questing before WoW even really thought about it. It really did. You know, I mean, a lot of the cool things that are now in WoW actually came from Lord of the Rings Online. And such as when you have a gathering quest, you don't have to fight over objects because there's always an object for you to loot. You know, like you loot it one time and the person can come up right behind you and loot it as well. And, you know, like when there's drop rates, like if you're trying to get something off a mob, they're usually 100%. You know, they're really high. It's not like WoW where you have to kill 100 boars to get one boar skin. You know, it's not like that at all. And there's a lot of differences, you know. I mean, it's very, very user-friendly. You know, this game caters to the young and the old as well. Anybody can really enjoy this game, I believe. That being said, you know, this game isn't just all for the casual. There is a raiding scene and people who like to be at the progression, you know, to be at the very top, cutting edge of progression, you know. There is that group of people in this game. And, you know, usually they're pretty cool too. They're not like elitists like you would find in WoW, really, you know. And you know, I'm not really slamming WoW. It's just WoW is what it is. It is what it is. It's full of a lot of unsavory characters because it is so popular. You know, the more people you concentrate in one area, the more unsavory characters you're gonna have, and that's just how it is, you know. And they've created this elitism model. You know, they everything is so gear based, and if you have the best gear, then you can walk around Ironforge just like, you know, you're Mr. Badass. And in Lord of the Rings, that shit doesn't matter at all. None of that matters whatsoever. You can have the best gear and walk around, and people aren't going to pay much attention to you. You'll probably get more attention playing a song in the middle of town than you would, you know, showing off your gear. And if you've been paying attention to the quest in the background, you know, you can see the dynamic questing, and I failed this a couple of times before I finally got the hang of it. You have to stay right by that gate or else you'll fail.
How can I
and you know, the questing is it keeps you on your toes, and it's not exactly easy. The mobs are fairly, you know, a challenge. You know, they are pretty hard. I'd say probably 3 or 4 is probably the most anybody could probably take in good gear. And elites and signature mobs, which are almost like elites. You know, they are a challenge. They are quite a challenge. And that's one thing that people might be thrown by, is the challenge of Lord of the Rings Online. It is supposed to be a casual game, you know, in some aspects, but it is quite a hard game. It is a pretty tough game. It takes a while to get the hang of your class and be really good at it. It takes some skills. Like you see this mob I'm fighting right here. This is known as a signature mob, and they aren't exactly elites, but they're up there. They are a challenge mob, and they are designed mainly around keeping on your toes for your class. You know, I mean, they're like right at the line where you can solo it if you are of the level. So, you know, they have different levels of mobs, and in the dungeons, you know, usually if it's a solo dungeon, it will conclude with a signature mob like this. And there's something they've introduced lately. It's called skirmishes. It's something that they've introduced since I've been gone. And what that seems to be is like 2 or 3 people dungeons for each zone. I'll have to check on to that. I plan on having more Lord of the Rings coverage in the MMORPG Spotlight. I'm going to show you some more quests and show you some more of this game. I mean, there's so much to show in Lord of the Rings. You can't encompass it all in a mere 25 minutes. There are also different types of quests. As you saw, like some were labeled forward, and some are labeled epic storyline quests, and the epic storyline quests, you know, that deals with Gandalf and Frodo and the whole gang. And I think this would be a good place to end this episode. Thanks for being here, and thanks for checking out Lord of the Rings with me. I'm going to show you some more Lord of the Rings, in probably the next episode. And then, this MMORPG Spotlight, I plan on spotlighting many different MMOs as we go along. This has been your host, Dark Hostess. Please join me next time. And if you like this video, thumbs up videos, please. That really helps out me and my channel. The channel name is called The Gamer Down, so be sure and subscribe. Have all kinds of MMO content, single player games, you name it, If you're a gamer, you'd really like my station. So check it out.